Those who are there on camera, it would always be more interactive if they are there on camera. Just try to be there on camera, all of you, online candidates. Just try to be there on camera, it would be much more interactive. And those who are there live on YouTube, you can also put your queries there. So before that, you put the queries and everything. I would like you to put one smile as well, because the per capita smile is going very less. ये बहुत ज़्यादा कम हो जाएगी. Online candidates, Shruti, Tushar, Anmol, Sunkari, those who are there live on YouTube, certainly they can also put their doubts there in the chat box. And my moderator, coordinator, and the co-host, certainly, Chandan he would be certainly informing me about most of the major queries. So those who are live, online live, certainly they can put their queries as well. So those who are there live on YouTube, first you start putting the smileys there in the chat box. That would be a good start. IVC, the script was pictographic. The pictures, they would represent the ideas. The best pictographic image is the smile. So online candidates, the live, YouTube live. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Those who are there on YouTube as well. Good evening. Now, before I start discussing about history optional, no, thank you so much for all these smiles. Now, before we start discussing about history optional from my side, no, first I would like to invite some queries from your side as well. Then I'll start discussing about history optional from my side. The session, I'm Gajanan, and the session is basically designed to help simplify history for everyone, especially for those who are appearing for the UPSC history optional paper. So before I start discussing the problems and the solutions, I need the problems. So anyone who can give me a problem, those who are online, they can put that in chat. And those who are there on YouTube live, they can put that in chat box. Put your questions first. Anyone? Any question? Yes? Any question? One good question to start with, that one student is asking here in offline, that why to opt for history as the optional. But then I have something to tell you. When talk about history, when talk about history, certainly that you have to figure out here that talking about history as the optional, why you should opt for history. A very basic reason is there. The basic most reason is that anyway you have to study for history 70% of the history syllabus, no? 70% of the history syllabus you would be studying in your GS as well. 30% more debate, analysis, no? Certainly, if you add there, then you reach the optional level. History optional, the most basic thing that we should know, the most basic thing that we should know, that there are two papers, paper 1 and paper 2. The most basic thing, कितनी बात तुम्हें पता है? Paper 1, what we have to study there? Ancient and medieval. Paper 2, what we have to study there? Modern and world history. Again, we can divide paper 1 and paper 2. This is what is the major description, the overall description of history syllabus. But when you talk about ancient, medieval, and modern, no? When you talk about ancient, medieval, and modern, don't you think that all the three, anyway, you have to prepare for the pre, no? And mains part of GS. Anyway, you have to study that. World history is part of the mains GS syllabus. That is part of the mains GS syllabus. So anyway, nearly 70% of GS syllabus of history optional, invariably you have to prepare for GS as well. 30% more debate and analysis when you add, you directly jump to the history optional level. That is 30% more debate. Shruti, Anmol, Mamta, then Sudhanshu, Chandra, Kantish, and all those. YouTube, or those who are live, I hope that my voice is clear to you. Put a Y in the chat box if my voice is clear to you. On those who are there live, YouTube, put a Y in the chat box if my voice is clear to you. Okay. Now, When you talk about GS, anyway 70% of the syllabus of history optional you have to prepare for GS, 30% more analysis has to be added. Now, what is this analysis part that I'm talking about? What is this extra that we have to prepare for when we are going for history optional? 30% more analysis. Think about it. I'll give you one very simple example. बहुत छोटा सा के example देता हूँ आपको. Think about GS. Those who are studying, suppose Vedic age. Vedic age is a major theme. No? आपने बोला Vedic age. आपने बोला Rigvedic age. Then you said later Vedic age. For GS, no? For GS, what you have to know? आपको पता क्या करना है? What you have to know? Basic thing that Rigvedic age, one of the most powerful and most important gods was Indra. Very powerful. No, Indra was super powerful and very important god in Rigvedic time. Later Vedic time, you will find that Indra, the position was not that powerful. Indra was not that powerful a god. No, there was a change. No, so GS, what you have to know that the most important god in Rigvedic age was Indra. No, in later Vedic age, the most important god would not be Indra. Indra would be losing the position. Again, when you talk about Rigvedic age in GS, what you have to know, Rigvedic age, the religion was very simple. No? The religion was very simple, mainly based on prayers. And then we talk about prayers, the basic way they would go for worshipping nature, the aspects of nature, a simple religion they would follow. They would worship aspects of nature like rain, like Agni, all these aspects of nature they would be worshipping. And the major way they would go for this worship would be basically prayers. Rituals were less important in early Vedic time. Later Vedic time, you will find that religion would be far more complex and rituals would be many. So the importance of the prayers, it was very high in Rig Vedic age, but in later Vedic age, the importance of prayers would come down and the rituals would become more important. Now, this is what you have to know in GS. But when you go for optional level, what you have to understand? Analysis. Why this happened? No, why this happened? Think about a simple diagram. The Aryans. Don't you think that they were migrating towards India in waves? No, the Aryans were migrating towards India in waves and they were coming through the northwest part of India. The northwest part of India, when they were coming from, the rain would be lesser. No? When rain would be lesser, don't you think that they would need a rain god? Indra is the rain god. No? Don't you think that when you talk about Indra as the rain god, Indra would be very powerful in Rig Vedic time? Then Indra would also be called Purandhar, the breaker of the forts. The Aryans were competing with those who were already there in India that time, no? The natives. And that is why Indra would also be called Purandhar, would be given a Vajra in the hand that would help in breaking the forts. So Rig Vedic time, Indra would be very powerful. Later Vedic time, by that time, the Aryans had already started migrating towards eastern part. No? But when you talk about the eastern part of India, don't you think that there would be abundance of rain? And so much rain would be there eventually that there would be so many floods. No? Every year, so much of rain. Do you still think that Indra would be that well worshipped? The position of Indra would be lesser because lesser was the need of the rain god. No? So the position of Indra in later Vedic time would come down. Don't you think that in eastern part of the country, no, eastern part, there was very good rain. No? The rain was very good. In eastern UP, in Bihar like area, the rain was very good. Don't you think that in eastern part of nation, India, no, country, you will find the soil would be very good, alluvial soil, no, very fertile, alluvial soil would be there. And don't you think that there would much use of iron? Don't you think that all this would make agriculture surplus? No, will it not make agriculture surplus? But when there would be surplus, Shruti, इतने गुस्से में कौन बैठा होता है? Now, when you talk about agriculture being so surplus, don't you think that this surplus agriculture would lead to surplus income? When income would be surplus, don't you think that rituals would be there? Rituals, no, would be designed to actually channelize this wealth towards, no, towards the elite classes, towards the priestly classes. Rituals would always derive the wealth from general people, moving it toward the priestly classes. The religion would become very complicated. This is what R.S. Sharma says. So what you will find that in eastern part, when the migration of the Aryans it was there, what you will find that better agriculture was there, religion would be complicated, rituals would be many. So much rain was there, certainly you will find that the position of Indra would go down. But don't you think that Anmol, Tushar, then Lalita, Tyagi, Anjali, all of you, don't you think that if surplus agricultural production was there, don't you think that this surplus agricultural production certainly would lead to surplus income and you would have one inclination to protect it. मतलब अब सेठ जी आने वाले थे, ऐसा था, surplus income था, and you would need to protect it. Don't you think that rather than Indra, now other gods would become more powerful in later Vedic age, like you talk about Vishnu. Vishnu is the protector. No, Vishnu is the protector. Don't you think that surplus income, Vishnu would become very influential? So early Vedic time, Rig Vedic time, Vishnu was not that powerful god. Later Vedic time, surplus income was there, Vishnu would be a powerful god. Don't you think that कि ये सब चीजें बहुत ही मजेदार हैं? No? And basically, this is something that is called analysis. You go for general facts, when you go for GS, 70% of the syllabus anyway you have to prepare for history, 30% more analysis you add. And the moment you add analysis 30% more from the GS level, you directly jump to the history optional level. But what I discussed here is conceptual. No, it's conceptual. I'm not talking about factual things. It's a misconcept. The biggest misconcept about history optional, the first big concept that is there is that a lot many facts are there. There are not many facts. You have to interpret those facts. You have to have very good conceptual clarity about the subject. When you go for a very good conceptual clarity, then only you can tackle the history optional paper in UPSC level. There is no other way. Do not run for facts. You have to go for the conceptual clarity. इट्स अ वेरी सिंपल कॉन्सेप्ट. ज़िंदगी में कुछ रूल्स बहुत क्लियर होते हैं. मैंने आपको बताया कि जो भी पैदा हुआ है वो मर जाएगा, जो भी याद करेंगे वो भूल जाएंगे, और जिसको भी भुलाना चाहेंगे उसे कभी भुला नहीं पाएंगे. रूल्स आर वेरी क्लियर. डू नॉट रन फॉर फैक्ट्स. डू नॉट ट्राई टू मग अप. If you want to clear UPSC history optional paper, do not try to run for facts, go for conceptual clarity. Just in GS, at the analysis, you are already there with the history optional. That is why one may easily go for history optional paper, because anyway in GS a big part of the syllabus anyway you have to finish. It's that simple. Second part. Now I'll discuss something more from my side. कुछ और भी बातें discuss करूँगा, but first I want some questions from those who are there in chat, YouTube live chat. Put some questions for me in the chat box. Those who are there live in YouTube, just put some questions. And online candidates, any questions? Any question? Online live. One student is talking about historiography. I'll discuss about that. Any other question? Those who are there live on YouTube, offline candidates, any questions? Any other question that you want to ask? Go and ask the question. What is the success rate in history optional? Ananya, look, what is the thing that I want to let you know that the success rate of history optional is as good as any other optional. The purpose of this session is not to influence anyone. No, just to let you know that all the toppers they come from history. Certainly, toppers they come from history, but then the toppers they come from every subject. We have to be very honest. There is something that is called scaling in UPSC. No, there is something that is called scaling in UPSC. Nobody exactly knows the formula of that scaling, but the scaling is something that would make all the optionals at par without any trouble. Every single optional would be at par. You don't have to worry about कि आपका optional मुश्किल होगा या आसान होगा. Your optional would be only as good as any other optional. What you should worry about is your interest. Is your interest. Are you interested in this subject? Now, one question is there in chat. How can we sure? Can can we prepare history? How can we sure? Just a moment. Just let me read it. One question. How can I be sure whether history is the right optional choice for me personally? Look, when you talk about history, whether you would be there comfortable with history or not, ये दुनिया का सबसे आसान काम है पता करना क्योंकि जीएस में हिस्ट्री पढ़नी ही पड़ेगी. देयर इज नो अदर वे. No, anyway, you have to prepare for history. There is no other way. So when you go for preparing history in GS, just see whether you like the subject or not. And if you like the subject, then certainly you are good for history optional. But मान लीजिए कि किसी को हिस्ट्री पसंद नहीं है, ओफो बड़ी मुश्किल हो जाएगी. अच्छा, मुझे कोई एक ऐसा बच्चा चाहिए जिसको हिस्ट्री पसंद नहीं हो और जिसने यूपीएससी क्लियर कर दिया हो. ये तो बहुत मुश्किल बात है. बिकॉज इफ यू डू नॉट लाइक हिस्ट्री, सपोज अ कैंडिडेट डज नॉट लाइक हिस्ट्री, बोला कि नहीं पसंद नहीं भाई. एवरी सब्जेक्ट हैज हिस्ट्री. आपने बोला इकोनॉमी, मैं बोलूंगा इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट. नो, आपने बोला एग्रीकल्चर इज स्टैग्नेटिंग, देन आई से व्हाई एग्रीकल्चर इज स्टैग्नेटिंग. colonial legacy, the colonial British policies, they are big way responsible for this. आपने बोला constitutional development. Can you know about constitutional development without knowing about the constitutional history here in India? आपने बोला social issues, the position of women, no, the position of depressed, problem of untouchability. आपने बोला international relation, Middle East is so much in problem. Can you understand the issue of Kurdistan without understanding its history? When the First World War was going on, there was a big probability that after the First World War, when the Ottoman Empire, the big Turkish Empire, the big Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire won, it would be defeated. In the First World War, the Turkish Ottoman Empire was fighting against Britain and France. No? So what was Ottoman Empire? By the way, एक बच्चे की आंखों में बहुत सवाल हैं, तो मुझे लगा मैं बता ही दूं. The Turkish people, they captured first Turkey, that was initially called Asia Minor. Then they captured a big part of Middle East. Then they also captured northern portions of Africa, like आपने बोला Egypt and so many other parts. And they also captured big part of Southeast Europe. Now, when they captured all these areas, they created a powerful Ottoman Empire. Now, this was a big Ottoman Empire. And in First World War, Britain and France, they were fighting against Ottoman Empire. Germany was the main aggressor country. No? So Germany, Turkey, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, they were all aggressor countries in the First World War, and they were fighting against Britain and France. There was a probability that after the First World War, there would be one more war to loot the territories of Ottoman Empire. That is why when the war itself was going on, in 1916 itself, went for Sykes-Picot Agreement. The Sykes-Picot Agreement divided entire Middle East on a paper, on the lines, on the areas, in the areas of influence, along the lines of forces. So Britain and France ने क्या किया? पूरा Middle East पेपर पे बांट दिया. But when they divided Middle East, they never took care of ethnicity of the people. That is how the Kurds were also divided into so many areas. They're also in Iran, they're also in Iraq, they're also in Turkey, they're also in Syria, and now what they're demanding Kurdistan. can you understand your international relation without knowing this Kurdish history that is there? Turkey is very much angry against US and European nations because US is looking supportive toward the Kurdish people, no? Even if Kurdistan would come, don't you think that it would cut down a big part of Turkey as well? That would go against sovereignty of Turkey. One of the reasons why Turkey is not very happy with the European policies and the policy of US. So in this war that is there between Russia and Ukraine, no? Ukraine, Russia, the war is going on. Turkey, despite being one partner of US, is not looking much supportive of US. No, in this issue of supporting Ukraine, Turkey is taking quite independent stand. Why? Because of this Kurdish issue. IR, economy, polity, society. There is nothing without history. History is the background for every other subject. Look, entire UPSC syllabus can be divided into just two parts: contemporary world and contemporary India. For contemporary India, the background would come through modern history. For contemporary world, the background would come through world history. History is the background for everything. So forget about history as the optional. That is a secondary issue that you have to decide. First, if a student anyway is willing to clear UPSC, that candidate should have the aptitude for history. Without the aptitude for history, it's near impossible to clear UPSC exam at all. So it's secondary question that when you like history, because everyone would have to like it. There's no other way. Every subject would derive its background from history. But when you like history, and if you like it much, certainly you can go for that history as the optional. Now, one question I'll take from those who are there live on YouTube. The question is, what are the merits and demerits of this optional? So, when you talk about merits and demerits, demerit की ही बात पहले कर लेते हैं. ये ज़्यादा अच्छी बात होगी. No, those who are live on YouTube, they are putting some question. One more question is there from YouTube live. Students, sir, I opted history optional for my main. Will appear in upcoming attempt. So, do I need coaching? No, just a moment. Now see this. I'll take first these two questions. First, those who are there live in YouTube chat, they can keep putting their queries. All of you, you can keep putting your queries. All of you, just keep putting your queries there. I'll see that. Don't worry. So those who are there offline, those who are there online, and those who are there on live YouTube. We'll discuss so many things, but पहले एक बात समझिए कि अगले 2 घंटे के लिए आप मेरे हुए और मैं आपका हुआ. So first keep putting your questions. अगले 2 घंटे के लिए ही सही पर ये सेशन. We have to make it very interactive. We have to make it very, very interactive. So those who are there online, I would always like you to be there on camera so that it would be much more interactive, a session. Right? So those who are there online, if possible, be there on camera. Now, first question, what are the merits and demerits of this optional, history as the optional? Just see this. I will talk about the demerits first, that you think are demerits. Because मुझे तो मेरा सब्जेक्ट बहुत पसंद है. There is no doubt about this. So मेरे लिए तो शायद ये मुश्किल नहीं होगी. But as a student, what problems are there that you can find? I'll try to tackle those. No. So Tushar, Shruti, Sunkari, Anmol, and others. I think that I'm audible. Okay. Now see this. When talk about the problems that the general candidate they try to figure out in this optional, तीन problem है. First, map work. डर लगता है. Map work खतरनाक होना चाहिए. आपको ऐसा लगता होगा. Second problem, historiography. No, that historiography would make this subject difficult. Third problem that you think would be there would be that so many facts that you have to retain. Let's try to tackle one by one. all these problems. I'll go for the map work first. So every single candidate who is there opting for optional, they must be very, very good in map work to score very high. This is the question that can give you absolute edge over all the other candidates. क्योंकि ये बहुत स्कोरिंग है मैप वर्क. प्रॉब्लम क्या है मैं आपको बताता हूँ. सी दिस, इफ यू टॉक अबाउट द मैप वर्क क्वेश्चन, ध्यान से देखिए ऑनलाइन कैंडिडेट्स, दोज हु आर देयर लाइव on YouTube, just see this carefully. That when you talk about the map work, there is a change in pattern in the question. What is the change in pattern in the question? First, earlier, how the pattern was there, you had to plot the sites on the map. आपको करना क्या था? Sites आपको plot करने थे. You had to plot the sites on the map. Now UPSC has changed the pattern. उन्होंने बोला the sites would be plotted. The sites are already plotted, and then you have to describe about the sites. No, you just have to describe about the sites. Don't you think that it's very easier pattern? पहले तो ये समझिए that map work में problem क्या थी? First of all, the plot site accurately was very difficult. That was the problem. UPSC is no longer going for that pattern. So those who are preparing for that pattern, they're wasting their time. नहीं पूछता UPSC से सवाल. What UPSC is asking here, simple thing, that the sites are already plotted. This is 2022 UPSC question. The sites are already plotted, and you have to talk about then the description of that site. So अब इसे याद कैसे रखेंगे? Suppose करिए how to retain the map question. Suppose if I show you a picture, of Noor Jahan, would you like to mug up? आप उसे याद करेंगे? नहीं? तो मैप क्यों याद करेंगे? मुझे भी बताइएगा ज़रा. सो दोज लाइव ऑन यूट्यूब, मुझे भी बताइएगा ज़रा कि जब नूर जहाँ की पिक्चर याद नहीं करेंगे तो मैप क्यों याद करेंगे? दैट इज ए पिक्टोरियल रिप्रेजेंटेशन. पिक्टोरियल रिप्रेजेंटेशन. इफ यू ट्राई टू मग अप द मैप क्वेश्चन, इट्स नेवर पॉसिबल टू टैकल इट. भूल जाइए. You just have to observe the map. You just have to observe the map carefully, the situations, the positions of the sites. Then, when they're asking about a site, they're asking about super important sites. Just a question देखिए. 2022, a question was that Neolithic pit dwelling. That was there, the third site. उन्होंने बोला Neolithic pit dwelling. उन्होंने बोला Neolithic pit dwelling. And for 3, you have to match that with 3. Kashmir? No? In Kashmir, no? In Kashmir, what are the important Neolithic sites? Online candidates in YouTube live, just put that. What are the important Neolithic sites in Kashmir? Anyone? Gufkral and Bujhom, the two important sites. No? The two important sites, Neolithic sites in Kashmir, the Bujhom and Gufkral. Now, if you talk about northwest of Srinagar, the most important site here depicted is Burj Home. So they are asking about one of the two most important sites in Kashmir. Now, what is the speciality of the sites there in Kashmir? The first speciality is simple, pit dwelling. Don't you think that Kashmir is a very cold region? No? And pit dwelling, no? Creating pit to stay there to protect yourself from cold. It should be one of the characteristics of the Kashmiri sites. First simple description, they are talking about pit dwelling, Burj home. Second, two more specialities if you talk about, we have found a lot many bone tools. Neolithic age. So we are expecting stone tools. Stone tools are there. But the speciality of the Kashmiri site is there that you have also found a lot many bone tools from there. And third speciality, along with the persons, you have found the burial of the dogs, domestic animals like dog. So dogs very loyal they are. बड़ी कीमत दी उन्होंने. नहीं, काफी बड़ी कीमत दी. The dogs were buried along with the people. Don't you think that एक हिस्टोरियन, एक बड़े कमाल के हिस्टोरियन थे, गॉर्डन चाइल्ड। ही कॉल्ड दिस नियोलिथिक टाइम एज नियोलिथिक रेवोल्यूशन। उन्होंने बोला नियोलिथिक एज वाज नियोलिथिक रेवोल्यूशन। Neolithic revolution. Why? Because this was the first time we moved towards the stage of agriculture, no? Food production, agriculture. So don't you think that when food production, agriculture, the people they move towards, it would be very settled life. For the first time, housing would start. Second, agriculture started for the first time in Neolithic age. Housing started for the first time in Neolithic age. Then you need the pots to store the grains. Pottery would become very prominent. Don't you think that so many changes were there in Neolithic time, and that is why Neolithic age is also called Neolithic revolution? If this is so, no, if this is so, certainly agriculture, the move was there towards agriculture. So एक छोटी सी बात बताइए, when you move towards agriculture, you have so much of a spare time as well. You were not depending upon food gathering and hunting only. When there would be spare time, there would be development of thinking. When you will think, you will always think about the life after death. Don't you think that all that would be getting reflected here along with the burial of the dogs, domestic animals, so many articles in the graves that we have found? One side that they asked in 2022. Correct? One more side, online candidates. Should we go for one more side? Anmol? Okay. See this. If you talk about one more question from 2022, no? They said early village settlement. उन्होंने बोला early village settlement. And you had to match this, no? You had to match this with, you had to match this with 4. Now go to 4. This is 4. Now this site is in Pakistan. अब याद रखिए, this is looking like Balochistan area of Pakistan. Balochistan area of Pakistan. What is the most important site? Mehergarh. No? The most important site in Balochistan area of Pakistan is Mehergarh. It is in Balochistan on the banks of Bolan River. It is on the banks of Bolan River. So, on the banks of Bolan River, nearby Bolan Pass, one of the most important sites, it was Mehergarh. 7000 BC, we start getting the evidence of settlement there. We start getting the evidence of very advanced cultivation of wheat and cotton. Now, Mehergarh, super important site it was in Balochistan, and that is what the question that was asked by UPSC in 2022. One more site, उन्होंने बोला हड़प्पन यूनेस्को साइट, बोला हड़प्पन यूनेस्को साइट 7. You have to match that with 7. Now, if you match that with 7, no, if you match that with 7 in Gujarat, उन्होंने बोला यूनेस्को साइट एंड हड़प्पन साइट हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर। एक बच्चा पहले ही मुस्कुराया, न्यूज़पेपर, न्यूज़पेपर भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा, पढ़ना पड़ेगा। इफ वी हैव टू क्लियर यूपीएससी तो पढ़ना पड़ेगा। So many questions in UPSC, they are always there with the help of contemporary context, with the help of newspaper that they are asking. So, if we talk about a UNESCO site and Harappan site, recently Dholavira was given UNESCO World Heritage status, no? And why this was given UNESCO World Heritage status in Gujarat? Because excellent water management system that we have found from Dholavira. The question was asked by UPSC in 2022. Is this not a very easy question? And is this not a very expected question? अच्छा एक और सवाल दिखाता हूँ, मैप क्वेश्चन, just to remove the fear about the map questions. One more question that I want to show you. See, this question that was asked by UPSC Prelims 2021. Prelims में एक सवाल पूछा UPSC ने 2021. Now, those who are there, so those who are there live in YouTube, they are putting good answers as well. Offline candidates, you have got good competitors on YouTube live. Put the answer there. Those who are there live on YouTube, put the answer there. Which one of the following ancient towns is well known for its elaborated system of water harvesting and management by building a series of dams and channelizing water into connected reservoirs? Dholavira is so special because it is known for the excellent water management system. This is the reason that why this was given recently the UNESCO World Heritage status. The answer is very simple. Dholavira. So my question is, मेरा सवाल तो ये है कि this is a question from UPSC GS prelims. धोलावीरा के बारे में पढ़ेंगे? सो अगर धोलावीरा के बारे में पढ़ेंगे जीएस में तो ऑप्शनल ही पढ़ लेते हैं। मतलब मुझे ऐसा लगा क्योंकि जस्ट आफ्टर दिस दे आस्क्ड द क्वेश्चन इन 2022 अबाउट दिस धोलावीरा। सिंपल थिंग्स दे आर आस्किंग वेरी सिंपल थिंग एंड एनीवे इन जीएस यू हैव टू स्टडी दैट। अच्छा एक और सवाल 2021 से मैप क्वेश्चन। उन्होंने बोला एंशियन पोर्ट 16 you have to match that with 16 no say this 16। अब एक छोटी सी बात देखिए इन एंशियंट इंडिया द टू मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पोर्ट्स दो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पोर्ट्स कौन से थे वन वॉज भरोच वन वॉज ताम्रलिप्ति ताम्रलिप्ति in Bengal region. No, the entire trade in north mainly would be traveling through the two main ports. One was Bharuch, one was Tamralipti. दो ही सबसे important port थे. No, in north Bharuch and Tamralipti. अब एक और छोटी सी बात समझिए. When you talk about Bharuch, it was also called Bhrigu Kaksha because it was connected with the story of ऋषि भृगु. महाभारत की स्टोरी पढ़ी है आपने? और अगर नहीं पढ़ी है तो बहुत गलत बात है। पर अगर पढ़ी है तो when you talk about Mahabharata story, you'll find Rishi Bhrigu there, connected with the story of Rishi Bhrigu. It was called Bhrigu Kaksha. It was also called Bari Gaja. Bari Gaja. And when you talk about this port of Bharuch, it would handle a big trade that would move through Dakshinapad. दो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट रूट्स कौन से थे वन वॉज उत्तरापथ starting from Gandhar, Takshila area, going up to Patliputra. That was called Uttarapath. And starting from Patliputra area, moving towards Ujjain, and again moving towards Bharuch. This was something that was called Dakshinapath. So they asked the question about Bharuch. अच्छा मुझे एक बात बताइए. When you read about ancient India, you will read about important ports. The most important port in ancient India was Bharuch. It would handle entire trade with West. No? A big part of the trade with the West, it would be mainly handled by Bharuch like ports. Super important port was Bharuch. Could we have not expected a question from Bharuch like area? That is map question. This is the first thing that I wanted to discuss with you. एक बात जो मैं आपको बताना चाहता था that the map questions are easiest to deal with, simple to deal with, and not only this, they are the most expected ones what UPSC is asking. आपको you must know about these points that UPSC is putting there in the map question. एक और सवाल बताता हूँ एक और भी बात बताता हूँ आपको बट उससे पहले any question now one question from those who are there live on YouTube. The question is history is so vast subject and debating subject how to understand that thing. एक सवाल पूछा है YouTube live. Those who are asking question they are putting that question. History is so vast. So the syllabus of history, no, when you talk about syllabus of history, apparently looks vast. No, apparently looks vast. थोड़ा बड़ा दिखाई देता है पर आपको नहीं लगता है the syllabus is looking vast because basically it is very well defined. अच्छा मान लीजिए if I say questions would be asked on Gandhi ji and I'm not defining it, it would look easier. But suppose if I say that questions would be from non-cooperation movement, from civil disobedience movement, from quit India movement. Now it would look vast. The syllabus is looking vast because it is very well structured. Now, when a syllabus is very well structured, though it would look vast, it is the easiest to follow. ये सबसे आसान होगा follow करने के लिए. There are many subjects in which the syllabus is not very well defined, and there you have to keep on interpreting it. अच्छा मुझे एक बात बताइए, in IGNO there is a credit like system. No? Puneet, yes, I'll answer that. So now if you talk about IGNO, there is a credit like system, 30 hours. That would make 1 credit. इतनी बात तो आप जानते हैं. अगर ये भी नहीं जानते तो ये भी मुश्किल की बात है, क्योंकि you would be bureaucrats and you should know about the education system then. अच्छा एक और भी मज़ेदार बात है, when you talk about the credit system, no? 30 hours, 1 credit that would be. The question is, suppose you go for Hindi, or whether you go for maths, or whether you go for physics, IGNO knows how much you study that would take 30 hours. Don't you think that on graduation? Even IGNO can make the syllabus at par by using this credit system. When IGNO can make the syllabus at par, don't you think that all the subject and the syllabus certainly UPSC can make equal? सारे syllabus बराबर है, न किसी सब्जेक्ट में ज़्यादा टाइम लगेगा, न किसी सब्जेक्ट में कम टाइम लगेगा. It is not possible. Every subject would require, forget about equal number of months, equal number of days, equal number of hours, बराबर टाइम, न कम न ज़्यादा. अगर आपको ऐसा नहीं लगता है तो आपको गलतफहमी है. When IGNO can make the syllabus at par, certainly UPSC can do that. So no syllabus is vast and no syllabus is small. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. ऐसा नहीं होता. Now online candidates, any other question? Those who are there live. एक बच्चे ने पूछा, should we cover all the parts of syllabus? So एक बच्चे ने पूछा, should, those who are there live in the YouTube live chat, those who are putting the question. एक बच्चे ने पूछा कि should we cover every single part of the syllabus or just some parts? अब एक छोटी सी बात समझिए. When you talk about the paper, no? When you talk about the paper, and when you talk about suppose paper second paper, and if you talk about the first question, we are going to get 5 parts in that. All the 5 parts would be from different parts of syllabus and every single question would be compulsory. You cannot miss even a single section of syllabus in any subject. आप किसी भी subject में syllabus का कोई भी part miss नहीं कर सकते हैं. That is not feasible. ऐसा नहीं होता है और ये बिल्कुल भी possible नहीं है. You have to read through entire syllabus, just not in history. For every single subject, the optional, the first comment like question, in which 5 parts are there. Every single part is compulsory and they would be from different sections of syllabus. That is why you must clear the entire syllabus. Those who are online, any questions that you want to ask, you can also raise hand. You can also raise hand if you want to ask a question. Any question? Shruti, you're looking very curious. You want to ask any question? Good evening, sir. Good evening. Thank you for the session, firstly. And actually, I just wanted to ask that how would you be covering the module in question answer format? Would it be each part of the syllabus or? True, it is. Shruti, I'll just come to that. First of all, the module has to be covered in question answer format because eventually you have to write that in your mains exam. No, eventually you have to write that in your mains exam. So the entire syllabus should be broken down into question answer format and then only it should be covered because that will take you directly to the writing level of UPSC mains exam. I'll give you one example, correct? I'll give you one example. How to tackle the syllabus through questions. I'll come to that, Shruti. Before that, a second fear that is always there in so many candidates is the question of historiography. Recently, controversy was there. No, recently a controversy was there. एक छोटी सी controversy थी. A part of Mughal history was curtailed in the new NCRT books that created a debate, no, whether that was justified or not. So, what do you think? आपको क्या लगता है? सवाल ये है। पहली बात है कि आपको ज़्यादा चीज़ें नहीं लगनी चाहिए, बिकॉज़ यू आर नॉट हिस्टोरियन। इन एग्ज़ाम यू डोंट हैव टू क्रिएट हिस्ट्री। याद रखिएगा, you don't have to create history. You have to put your opinion, but you have to put your opinion through the opinion of big writers and scholars. That would always be more justified. Simple सी बात है. देखिए, this question, whether the Mughal history should be curtailed or not, it has generated a basic question. आप बोलते हैं कि आपको हिस्टोग्राफी मुश्किल लगती है, but are you not talking about historiography? क्या आप हिस्टोग्राफी की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं? This is historiography. यही तो है. Every day you're going through historiography. How history should be written, that is historiography. एक एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ आपको. Just one example. History can be written in many ways. There were so many historians. Like आपने बोला imperial historians. आपने बोला nationalist historians. आपने बोला Marxist historians. Different categories. आपने बोला imperial historians. They always wanted to keep divided the societies. No? Throughout the rule, the British always wanted to keep divided the societies. No, the Hindus against Muslims, they wanted to keep them divided. The upper classes against the depressed classes, they wanted to keep them divided. They always wanted to keep divided the society so that they would be able to rule over us. इतनी सी बात थी. अगर ऐसी बात थी, there was one imperial historian James Mill. No, imperial historian was James Mill. James Mill. Now, when you talk about James Mill, he for the first time categorized the Indian history into periods like Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period. Ancient, medieval, बोला ancient Hindu period, medieval Muslim period, बोला then British period, modern age British period. This is one way of looking towards how history should be written. But don't you think that it would have so many problems in itself? ढेर सारी प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी. थिंक अबाउट इट. आपने बोला हिंदू पीरियड फॉर एंशियंट. नो. आपने बोला मुस्लिम पीरियड फॉर मेडिएवल. कैसे बोला? यू डिसाइडेड दिस बेस्ड ऑन द रिलीजन ऑफ द रूलिंग क्लास. देन द ब्रिटिश पीरियड शुड बी कॉल्ड क्रिश्चियन पीरियड. Can you call the modern age as Christian period in India? That would be highly problematic. You cannot accept it. Can you call? आपने बोला the rulers were Hindu period, ancient India. The rulers were Muslims, Muslim period, medieval India. Then that way the British period should be considered then Christian period because the British were Christians. You cannot accept it. Then आपने बोला Hindu period. But don't you think that the initial religious scriptures would not talk about Hindu word? They would use Brahmanical system. They would use the word Brahmanical. So कब से यूज करेंगे ये हिंदू पीरियड? अगेन अ डिबेट वुड बी देयर. देन आपने बोला द religion of the ruler should be the category for that period as well in categorization. Ka was Buddhist. Would you call that era as Buddhist period? No. Again there would be a problem. And आपने बोला Muslim period. More than the Muslim rulers, there were non-Muslim rulers that time in India. And more than the Muslims, the non-Muslim population was there in India. How you can call the medieval time as Muslim period? Don't you think that history can be looked upon through different perspectives? No? The way you are looking towards history, the same facts, how you are interpreting it, basically something that is called historiography. Historiography is the simplest part of the syllabus, and basically it would be integrated with every single line because facts can always be interpreted in different ways. The way you are interpreting the fact, that would create historiography, is that simple thing. So math work is not difficult. Historiography is super simple. Third thing, the question answer format. Third thing, the question answer format. I'll come to that. But before that, those who are there live, online, offline, any questions? तो सवाल आप पूछ. थिंकर्स। पढ़ना पड़ेगा या नहीं? एक क्वेश्चन और कुछ पूछना चाहते हैं आप? तो किसने पूछा कॉलेज टाइम में जो हमने पढ़ाई की थी, किसने पढ़ाई की थी भाई कॉलेज टाइम में? बच्चा मुझे भी बताइएगा ज़रा। ऑनलाइन जो लाइव चैट में मुझे बता दिए, मैं भी देखना चाहता हूँ, कोई बच्चा कॉलेज में पढ़ रहा था क्या? ये तो बड़ी अजीब बात हो जाएगी कि मुझे एक ऐसा बच्चा मिल जाए जो कॉलेज में पढ़ रहा था। ओफ़ो! ये तो बड़ी दिक्कत वाली बात हो गई। ये सवाल तो मुझे समझ में नहीं आया कि कॉलेज में जो हमने पढ़ाई की, क्या पढ़ा था हमने? वो जो 30-30 क्वेश्चन का सेट पढ़ा था, एग्ज़ाम के 2 दिन पहले। और उसमें भी 1 दिन पहले हम भाग कर अपने दोस्त के पास गए थे कि तुम्हारे पास है वो ज़ेरॉक्स? दोस्त के पास नहीं मिली, हमने उसे बहुत डाँटा कि कोई ज़िम्मेदारी नाम की चीज़ होती है, 2 दिन बाद एग्ज़ाम है। हमने ज़ेरॉक्स किताब की दुकान से खरीद कर वो सेट खरीदे, रात भर रटा, सुबह लिख दिया, मार्क्स आ गए। शुरू में अशोक था, अंत में भी अशोक था, बीच में दबंग की कहानी थी। इसको नहीं कहते हैं सब्जेक्ट पढ़ना। अगर if you really go for completing the entire syllabus of university, no, really it is fabulous. But hardly the trouble is that the student they would go for going for the entire syllabus. Mostly we can guess the questions. That is the trouble. So in UPSC you have to go for entire syllabus. And then they would ask about the basic things, very basic thing. That is what is the difference between college studies and UPSC. मतलब यूपीएससी इसलिए थोड़ा मुश्किल आपको लगता है बिकॉज़ पहली बार आप सब कुछ पढ़ रहे होते हैं, सच में। अगर ऐसा नहीं होता, डोंट यू थिंक दैट यूपीएससी वुड हैव पुट कि हाँ भाई, जो गोल्ड मेडलिस्ट हैं, दे कैन अपीयर ओनली फॉर यूपीएससी एग्ज़ाम। उन्होंने बोला कि यू कैन कम विद अ थर्ड डिवीज़न रैंक इवन इन यूपीएससी, इवन फ्रॉम ग्रेजुएशन, इवन अ थर्ड डिवीज़न रैंक, बट येस यू वुड बी एक्सेप्टेड देयर एज़ एलिजिबल कैंडिडेट फॉर यूपीएससी, नो? अ गुड कैंडिडेचर कैन बी कंसिडर्ड इवन दैट। सो आपको नहीं लगता है यूपीएससी इज स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम स्क्रैच? अच्छा, कुछ बच्चे ऐसे हैं जो बोल रहे हैं कि कुछ पढ़ा था। अच्छा, मैं बोलता हूँ कि मान लीजिए आप में से कोई इंजीनियर है एंड हाफ ऑफ यू मे बी फ्रॉम इंजीनियरिंग बैकग्राउंड, मैनेजमेंट बैकग्राउंड, कोई डॉक्टर हो सकता है। कितना काम की बात होगी दैट इफ वन इंजीनियर इज गोइंग फॉर हिस्ट्री एज द ऑप्शनल। मजेदार सी बातें हैं। डीडी कौसाम्बी द ग्रेट हिस्टोरियन वाज बेसिकली अ मैथमेटिशियन। मैथमेटिशियन थे वो। विपान चंद्र वाज इंजीनियर। अच्छा, क्या बिपान चंद्र से भी ज़्यादा अच्छे हिस्टोरियन बनना चाहते हैं? मुझे लगता है उसकी ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। आई डोंट थिंक दैट दैट वुड बी नीडेड। तो बहुत इंजीनियरिंग भी पढ़ी थी बिपान चंद्र ने, पर हिस्टोरियन बड़े कमाल के थे। अच्छा, बिपान चंद्र पे एक और बात याद आ गई। दोस्त देयर इन लाइव चैट उन्होंने लिखा है कि ठीक है, तुषार, अंकुर, आई विल टेक योर क्वेश्चन एज़ वेल। बट एक बात बताइए, बिपान चंद्र पढ़ेंगे आप? यू विल गो फॉर रीडिंग बिपान चंद्र फॉर जीएस? पढ़ेंगे ना? ओके। So R.S. Sharma and Romila Thapar you will read for GS. Satish Chandra you will study for medieval history. R.S. Sharma and Romila Thapar they are very good for ancient. विपान चंद्र is excellent for modern history. नॉर्मल लो ही पढ़ेंगे वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री के लिए क्योंकि सबसे अच्छी किताब है। तो हो गया ना ऑप्शनल प्रिपेयर। यू जस्ट हैव टू स्टार्ट रीडिंग दिस थ्रू ऑप्शनल पर्सपेक्टिव। पढ़ना उतना ही है जितना जीएस में है, सोचना ज़्यादा है, सोचना ज़्यादा है। When you read a subject, you have to be very thoughtful about it. That will take you to the UPSC optional level. Now, one more question from those who are live. In GS, main question of world history is minimum, and in optional, what is the weightage? Look, when you talk about GS and you talk about optional history, world history, you are getting fixed proportion. सर बराबर सवाल आएंगे। वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री इज द मोस्ट फैबुलस पार्ट, सबसे कमाल का पार्ट है बिकॉज यू डोंट हैव टू इवन वरी अबाउट हिस्टोग्राफी। World history is the easiest to tackle among the four parts: ancient, medieval, modern, and world. No? World history basically is the easiest to tackle and the most scoring part is world history. सबसे स्कोरिंग होगा, सबसे इजी होगा आपके लिए, सबसे मज़ेदार पार्ट है वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री, बहुत ही आसान। अब एक और भी चीज़ जो मैं आपसे डिस्कस करूंगा, वन मोर थिंग दैट आई वांट टू डिस्कस। पुनीत इज पुटिंग अ क्वेश्चन। पुनीत, वन क्वेश्चन, यस, आस्क मी वन क्वेश्चन। Online candidates, If Tushar Ankur has got so many questions, all the others, don't you have questions? Others, I want questions from you as well. Yes, Puneet. Yes. Look, anything can be prepared by self study. अच्छा आपको नहीं लगता है तेंदुलकर खुद भी तो क्रिकेट खेल सकता था? खेल सकता था ना क्रिकेट? Anything can be prepared by self study. It's that simple and honest thing. Why coaching is there? I'm not using the word teaching. मैंने आपसे teaching word use नहीं किया. I'm using the word coaching. I'm not here to teach you. If you're really those who can come into top 100 of UPSC, no one can teach you. We can coach you. तेंदुलकर का टीचर नहीं, तेंदुलकर का कोच था. रोजर फेडरर का भी कोच था. एंड राफेल नडाल का भी कोच था. नो इज दैट सिंपल थिंग. यू नीड अ कोच. क्योंकि तेंदुलकर तेंदुलकर था. देयर वाज नो वन लाइक तेंदुलकर. यू नो व्हेन तेंदुलकर वाज वेरी यंग, Ramakant Achrekar would put a coin, 1 rupee coin on the wicket. I would say, Tendulkar, that you have to defend throughout the day this 1 rupee coin. And in the end of the day, that 1 rupee coin would be given to Tendulkar. That was the prize that Tendulkar would get. But it was rigorous practice. No, it was rigorous practice, rigorous training that the coach would give to Tendulkar to make him what he was. Tendulkar. सब कुछ किया जा सकता है. कोचिंग का पर्पस इतना होता है, वी जस्ट लेट यू नो दैट यू आर तेंदुलकर. आपकी इतनी रिगरस ट्रेनिंग करते हैं कि आपकी हालत खराब हो जाती है. एग्जाम में रोएंगे, उससे पहले हम आपको रुलाते हैं. दैट इज व्हाट इज कोचिंग. कोचिंग का पर्पस ये होता है. अगर मैं एक लाइन में बताऊं, क्योंकि रोना है, सिंपल सी बात है, रोना बहुत है यूपीएससी में. या तो एग्जाम में रोइए, या उससे पहले हम आपको रुला देंगे. सो दैट रिगरस थिंग दैट यू आर गोइंग टू फेस इन योर एग्जाम, we make you go through every day. That is what is the purpose of coaching. हम यही करते हैं यहाँ in the house. This is what we do. Any other question? किसी को और कोई सवाल पूछना? Then go for my part. मैं बातें बहुत करता हूँ, इसलिए टीचर बना. So अब अगली बात मैं करूँगा, लेकिन उससे पहले मुझे आपसे सवाल चाहिए. So किसी ने पूछा, do we need to learn about debates and controversies? Without controversy, there is no debate, and without debate, there is no issue. Every single topic in interview that the interviewer is asking from controversial issues, is asking from debate. So communal politics is debatable, controversial thing. Don't you think that you would be asked questions on that when you go to interview? जब आप interview में जाएंगे, तो there would be questions on everything, including the controversial things, and you have to then defend the right side. So what is the right approach? What is the right stand that you have to take there? What the scholars, the great historians, they actually believe. There is a big controversy. अगर मान लीजिए मैं controversy की बात करता हूँ in Karnataka. The controversy was there. The right, some of the people, they said that Tipu Sultan, no, Tipu Sultan should not be celebrated much because he ruled over a very small territory like Mysore, and Tipu Sultan basically could not create anything that survived after him. Don't you think that the modern historians, they would try to defend that? The extent of territory over which the ruler ruled is not the parameter of the greatness of the ruler. Jhansi was smaller than even Mysore, but Rani Lakshmibai was great. Just like that, Tipu Sultan was also great. Rani Lakshmibai created hardly anything politically that survived after her as a structure, as a system. But don't you think that the greatest contribution of Rani Lakshmibai was that she would keep on inspiring us always? And nationalism, above all, is a psychological concept. So don't you think that in that parameter, even Tipu Sultan is also great? You have to counter the controversies, but in a very balanced way, through the ideas of like great historians. You have to put the opinions. पर मान लीजिए कि आपका ओपिनियन बिल्कुल वैसा ही है जैसा बिपान चंद्रा सोचते थे, तो ये बिपान चंद्रा की हेडेक है कि वो आपसे अलग सोचने की कोशिश करते हैं. ये आपकी जिम्मेदारी नहीं है. किसी ने आपको ऐसा नहीं बोला दैट यू कैनॉट थिंक लाइक बिपान चंद्रा. उन्होंने पूछा व्हाट डू यू थिंक, बट आई ऑल्सो थिंक लाइक द वे बिपान चंद्रा थिंक. व्हाट इज सो बिग, व्हाट इज सो नॉट गुड अबाउट इट? आई वुड ऑलवेज ट्राई टू डिराइव द व्यूज. अगर मान लीजिए कि आपको लिखना था हिंदी साहित्य, Hindi Sahitya, there is excellent teacher in Rao's, no? When you talk about Hindi Sahitya, suppose you have to write there, आप साहित्य का सृजन नहीं करेंगे, no? You're not going to create literature there. What you have studied, you are going to write that. History is just like that. You're going to write something that you have studied. जो आपने पढ़ा है, आप वही लिखेंगे. अब मैं अपनी तरफ से कुछ बात बताऊंगा, पर इससे पहले एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस दैट यू हैव. एक क्वेश्चन जो है, दोज वर देयर लाइव, नो, दोज वर देयर लाइव इन यूट्यूब. Any questions from those who are live there in YouTube? Put your questions. Offline candidates, any questions you have? Shruti, Malvika, any question you have? One question is there that, sir, NCRT has removed Mughal Empire chapter. So is it necessary to learn on that particular syllabus? First of all, that you should know that if you talk about the Mughal part, that has been curtailed. In other classes, the Mughal history is still there. You have to be careful, first of all. Second thing, UPSC has never said that. UPSC has never said that it would just ask the question from NCRT. So basically, you still will have to read about the Mughals, and you'll have to read about the Mughals in detail. It's that simple thing. किसी को कोई और सवाल पूछना है? ऑफलाइन कैंडिडेट्स, एक चीज जो मैं अपनी तरफ से आपसे डिस्कस करता हूँ, मेजर थीम्स, नो, मेजर थीम्स. पहली बात तो ये है, the online candidates, the offline candidates, and those who are live there on YouTube, I cannot see you, but certainly you're putting good questions. But those who are there online, there on camera, I can always see you. Offline candidates, एक छोटी सी बात, मान लीजिए कि यू राइट एक्सेप्शनली ऑप्शनल सब्जेक्ट, बहुत कमाल का लिखा आपने ऑप्शनल, नो, और जीएस भी बहुत अच्छी लिखी आपने, तो क्या बात होगी? व्हाट वुड बी द आउटकम? यू वुड बी देयर इन इंटरव्यू, नो, यही बात होगी ना. पर मान लीजिए कि इतना उदास होकर आप पहुंच गए इंटरव्यू में. There we start getting the trouble when we start training the candidates for interview. Because 1.5 years they were prepared like sannyasis. कभी मुस्कुराए नहीं. In interview they have to smile first. और जब एक डरा हुआ बच्चा स्माइल करता है तो इतना बुरा दिखता है कि मैं आपको शब्दों में नहीं बता सकता. I do not have words to explain that when a person who is very afraid and is trying to smile, how bad that person would look like. So when we start training the candidates for interview, first we let them know that a smile is part of your personality. It reflects your personality. The Pokhran test was smiling Buddha. It was not crying Buddha. Naita, online candidates, YouTube, those who are live, certainly you will agree with me that we talked about a smiling Buddha. The smile of Buddha was fabulous. No, it was enchanting. Second thing, the trouble that would be there with the candidate, that 1.5 years they would prepare like sannyasis, so they do not have the habit of speaking up. When they go suddenly into interview and they have to start speaking up, then there's a certain trouble for them. अब उनके साथ problem होती है because they do not have the habit of speaking up. So when you are there in class, when you are there in class, when you are interacting with someone, seminar or anything like this, just be very interactive. Speak a lot. Speak up. No? ढेर सारी बातें करनी है और सबसे पहले खुश रहना है, क्योंकि एग्ज़ाम क्लियर करने के बाद भी आप खुश, यही बात हो गई ना कि आप खुश हो जाएँगे, तो खुश आप अभी भी रह सकते हैं. That is equally true. And you solve your fabulous candidates offline, online, and certainly I'm getting good questions from the YouTube live chat as well. Now, I'll go for one more thing, that when you go for syllabus, syllabus is big, बहुत बड़ा है syllabus. पर आपको नहीं लगता है one of the ways of dealing with syllabus is to go for dealing with the major themes? Gandhian politics would be a major theme. Major theme होगा. 100% will agree with that. A question I'll show you. The question is from UPSC History Optional. Why is Quit India movement characterized as a spontaneous revolution? No? Question ने कहा, why is the Quit India movement characterized as a spontaneous revolution? Did it accelerate the process of Indian independence? पूछा, did it accelerate the process of Indian independence? दो part है, there are two parts. First part, why the Quit India movement was spontaneous? That is what we have to prove. क्यों हुआ था क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट? सिंपल सी बात थी, दिसंबर 1941, December 1941, Japan attacked over Pearl Harbor and entered into the Second World War. Japan was quickly capturing so many areas, no? And it had captured even a big part of Burma. Japan was on the verge of invading India. Something had to be decided. There was a big political churning in India. Japan was on the verge of invading India. It had already captured a big part of Burma. First factor, no? But don't you think that entry of Japan that had completely changed the situation? It was very abrupt. It was very spontaneous. It was sudden. On the other hand, in India, the Cripps mission that was sent there in March, no? In March 1942, the Cripps mission that was sent, it had failed. The Indians were completely disappointed. Third factor that was there, don't you think that Gandhiji was going through the last phase of his political career? And he was very impatient to get the result for India. And fourth, don't you think that the Second World War had already created a huge economic crisis like situation in India? The British had diverted huge resources away from India. Don't you think that there were so many factors which were combining, no? And the aggression of Japan, Japan was on the verge of invading India. Certainly, it made the start of the movement very abrupt. Certainly, it was very spontaneous. Spontaneous in its factors as well as in its course. No? The start of the Quit India movement was very spontaneous. अब कैसे था? 8th of August. No? 8th of August 1942. 8th of August 1942. There was AICC meeting. No? AICC meeting. It was there in Gwalior. It was there in Gwalior field. Gwalior field in Bombay. There was a Gwalior tank, bada sa talab tha. Nearby there was a field. The Gwalior field was in Bombay. And there was meeting of AICC where the Quit India resolution was ratified. No? Quit India resolution was ratified. Congress demanded immediate withdrawal of the British from India. And Gandhi ji gave the slogan of do or die. गांधी जी ने बोला करो या मरो. अब एक प्रॉब्लम हो गई, क्या करो पता ही नहीं था. Because very soon the British cracked eye, no, very strict they were. They arrested all the leaders and declared Congress as illegal organization. The movement had to start on 9th of August 1942. No? 9th of August 1942, when the flag would be hoisted. But the flag had to be hoisted by the leaders. None of the leaders, they were there because all of them, they had been arrested by the British. None of the leaders, they were coming and the people were simply waiting there. What might have gone wrong? क्या बात हुई थी? One young lady, that time Aruna Asif Ali, very young, no, she could understand that. It was Aruna Asif Ali. She ran, she hoisted the flag. And then the movement started abruptly, without very clear plan, without almost any leadership, because certainly the British had arrested all the major leaders. Asya, clear with this? Malvika, clear with this? Don't you think that if this is so, certainly you have to figure out that the start was equally abrupt. Leaderless, the movement was, the movement turned violent abruptly. Certainly it was very spontaneous, without any leadership, because the leaders, they had been arrested. So many leaders were there, no? So many leaders were there who tried to give the direction to the movement through the underground activities like Jay Prakash Narayan, like Ram Manohar Lohia, the great leader Usha Mehta. There was one underground radio station in Bombay of Congress, and that was operated by the great leader, Usha Mehta, Sucheta Kriplani, all of them, they tried to give the direction to the movement through underground activities. But no matter what, the movement turned out to be quite spontaneous. That is what you have to write there in the first part of the question. The second part of the question, what it asked that could it bring the independence closer? That is what was the second part of the question. Look, first of all, the Cripps mission had been rejected. The Cripps mission had been rejected by the Indians. And the Cripps mission had already offered near independence to the Indians. Indians rejected that. Don't you think that when Indians rejected that near independence offer and still went ahead for this big quit India movement, one thing was for sure that Indians would accept nothing less than independence. It was very clear to the British that complete independence without Purna Swaraj, Indians would not compromise. First thing was very clear. Cripps mission had already proposed near independence. The Indians had rejected that, and still they went ahead for this Quit India movement. That simply proved that Indians would accept nothing less than complete independence. Second, don't you think that the Quit India movement was such a big rebellion like situation in India? Violent. Everybody was turning violent, rebellious against the British government. The Second World War had completely broke down the economic and military strength of Britain. Don't you think that it was not easy for the British to keep suppressing such big rebellion in India very frequently? No? After Second World War, when the economic and the military strength was broken, it was not easy for the British to keep suppressing such big rebellions. Don't you think that all this would convince them to go for negotiations, to go for the final transfer of power towards India? So, don't you think that if the Quit India movement failed in its immediate objective of getting independence, you cannot just compare a movement on its immediate achievement, because on that parameter, Swadeshi movement also failed, non-cooperation movement also failed, and civil disobedience movement also failed. The longer implication was very important. It convinced British that it was good to go for negotiations rather, and then it certainly the independence closer. अच्छा मुझे एक बात बताइए, अगर यही बात लिखनी थी, if this is what you had to write there in that question, why do you think that history is a difficult optional? पहले तो मुझे ये बताइए कि आपको लगता क्यों है कि हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल है? फसीहा, पुनीत, अनमोल, मालविका, all of you, those who were there, Chetan, Tushar, Giraj, Shivansh. Do you think that this was a very difficult question? Put there in the chat box, YouTube live. Those who are there live, just put that in the chat box. Do you think this is a very difficult question? Very easy the question. Very easy is the subject to deal with. Very simple is the approach. देखिए हिस्ट्री में कौन फेल करेगा? The person who knows the art of complicating the subject. हिस्ट्री में फेल कौन करेगा? Who would fail in exam? The person who has got a problem of paralysis of over analysis. Analysis is something that would simplify. Analysis is not there to complicate a problem. Analysis is always there to help you simplify something. It is never there to complicate something. But to remain simple is the most difficult thing. Look, B.R. Ambedkar was intellectual giant, but Gandhiji was simple. One of the reasons why Gandhiji would be creating a bigger image of a mass mobilizer. No, B.R. Ambedkar was excellent, great intellectual giant he was, but in mass mobilization, Gandhiji was always ahead of even B.R. Ambedkar. Gandhiji was very simple. One of the reasons why it is so. Remain simple. That is the most difficult thing. Any other thing that you want to ask? Fasiha? Malvika? Any other question that you want to ask? Shruti? Sivans and others? Falgun? Any question that you want to ask those who are there live on YouTube? एक छोटी सी बात है कि those who are there online, I have asked them to put the cameras on. I'm very much used to do that. कि मैं क्लास में जब भी होता हूँ, so those who are online even, I always ask them to put their cameras on. तो एक बड़ी मज़ेदार बात होती है दैट व्हेन दे आर नॉट स्टडिंग वेल दे वुड गेट सम गुड स्कोल्डिंग फ्रॉम मी एज़ वेल। थोड़ी सी डाँट भी पड़ती है और यही बात बहुत मज़ेदार होती है। No, when you're very attentive towards something, you're very alert towards something, the things are always very natural to you. Do not try to mug up. याद कुछ मत करिए, याद कुछ मत करिए। बहुत सिंपल सी बात है, मैंने आपको बताई। जो भी बात याद करेंगे भूल जाएँगे और जिसको भी भुलाना चाहेंगे उसे कभी भुला नहीं पाएँगे। अच्छा, in 4th standard, in 5th standard, maybe some friends were there with you in your school. Maybe some of your friend would give you a phone call and you would start recollecting everything what happened that time. क्या बात हुई? कहाँ आप घूमने गए थे? कितनी बार रिवाइज़ किया उसे? नहीं किया रिवाइज़? I promise you the history subject optional is just like that. ये इतना ही मज़ेदार होने वाला है कि आपको उसे रटने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, दैट इज़ फॉर श्योर, क्योंकि ये समझने की बात है। यू जस्ट हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड वेरी वेल द थिंग्स। एक बच्चे ने पूछा कि अच्छा स्कोर क्या होता है? मतलब एक बात है कि मैं टीचर हूँ, आई एम नॉट एस्ट्रोलॉजर बिकॉज़ एवरी ईयर डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द स्केलिंग। सो मैं थोड़ा परेशान भी रखता हूँ अपने स्टूडेंट्स को। ये बात तो बिल्कुल तय है, तो मैं आपको फिर से परेशान करूँगा। बिकॉज़ आई विल टॉक यू, देखिए 2 बातें होती हैं, अच्छी-अच्छी बातें और सच्ची-सच्ची बातें। In class, I'm very much used to go for sachi baatein because UPSC would ask you to be very honest with yourself. So the same goes for me as well. क्योंकि यूपीएससी सबकी मम्मी जैसी हैं, यूपीएससी के आगे किसी की नहीं चलती, so it's better to accept the rules given by UPSC. Honest thing. Every year, depending upon the scaling, the marks would vary. If I put you a target, that this is the target that you have to score to clear the exam, that would be absolutely unnatural and that should not be accepted. It would depend upon scaling, how the scaling has been done across the subjects, all of the optionals given by UPSC, and only UPSC can let you know, no one else. So हो सकता है उस साल स्केलिंग करके जितने मार्क्स आ रहे हो उसमें आपका मार्क्स अच्छा हो, that would be more than sufficient. Certainly you can be a topper from history, that much I can certainly guarantee. इसमें कोई शक नहीं that you can be a topper. And when you have history as the optional, you're very intellectual. You're very, very intellectual. There is no doubt about this. History is a fabulous subject. बहुत कमाल का सब्जेक्ट है। कोई एक और सवाल पूछिए मुझसे, दोज वर देयर ऑनलाइन। एक बच्चे ने पूछा है डिस्कस इट फ्रॉम द प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। सो प्रीलिम्स के पर्सपेक्टिव से डिस्कस करिए। देखिए एक छोटी सी बात बताता हूँ। व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट अशोकन धम्मा, आपने बोला अशोकन धम्मा, ठीक है। एक और चीज़ देखिए, देन दोज वर देयर लाइव, दे आर पुटिंग सो मेनी क्वेश्चंस। सो इफ यू टॉक अबाउट अशोका एंड अशोकन धम्मा, एक सवाल पूछा उन्होंने, यूपीएससी 2022 क्वेश्चन वाज देयर, करेक्ट? Ashoka's Dhamma was propagated not just for moral upliftment. ये सवाल पूछा उन्होंने, समझ रहे हैं आप? फिर से समझिए। Ashokan Dhamma was propagated not just for moral upliftment and social harmony, but also for extension of state authority and also for extension of the state authority. And analyze the statement. That is what the question says in optional 2022. क्वेश्चन ने पहले बोला कि मुझे आता है, हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी डिफिकल्ट। अच्छा एक और सवाल देखिए, 2009 यूपीएससी क्वेश्चन वाज देयर, श्रुति देयर इज योर आंसर, जस्ट सी दिस श्रुति केयरफुली, एक्सप्लेन हाउ अशोका यूज्ड रिलीजन एज a tool for political aggrandizement. No? So when talk about this optional 2019 question, so for political purpose, how Ashoka used religion, Dhamma, no Dhamma for political reason and state authority. Dhamma, is this not the same question? When we try to tackle optional through the question, it's super easy. The themes are often repeated. Just through question, you can tackle entire syllabus so easily. अच्छा अब एक और भी बात समझ लीजिए, मतलब इस क्वेश्चन को हम डिस्कस कर लेते, मतलब इतनी छोटी सी बात है कि जैसे मन की बात, मतलब आप जाकर सीधा वहां जाइए, you just use a pen, just think about it and start writing. That simple question it is. First of all, moral upliftment. Buddhist upasaka dhamma. Who were upasakas? The lay followers, not the monks, lay followers. Ashoka's Dhamma. Ashoka's Dhamma was inspired by Buddhist Upasaka Dhamma to bring the moral norms for the people, social code of conduct for the people. At the same time, it was for moral upliftment. There is no doubt about this. But at the same time, it got so many practical purposes as well. The time of Ashoka was the time when Buddhism and Jainism they were very prominent as the religious ideologies. And don't you think that at the same time, Brahmanical Brahmanical religion was already very strong? See, powerful religious ideologies. Don't you think that the social conflicting situation would be there? Churning would be very high because religious ideologies they would always try to prove themselves better than others. Conflicting situation. Don't you think that you needed a common code of conduct to bring a social coherence? No, a coherent society is always far more productive. Then, don't you think that Ashoka talked about a social code for everyone across India? Ashoka talked about Prakrit was the main language that was used for Ashokan edict and Dhamma. Ashokan edicts are in many languages and in many scripts, but the main language is Prakrit and the main script is Brahmi. One social code, one main language, one main script. Will it not help in administrative convenience? Across India, don't you think that it would bring uniformity? One language, one script, no, one social code of conduct, administrative convenience, no? Then, don't you think that Dhamma propagated peace? No? If Dhamma propagated peace, don't you think that peace and economy they are connected with each other? No? Thank you, Chandan bhai. Peace and economy they are so much connected with each other. Without peace, there is no economy. अच्छा एक बात समझिए आपने बोला ऑनलाइन लाइव चैट यूट्यूब कैंडिडेट जस्ट ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड एक छोटी सी बात समझिए डोंट यू थिंक दैट आप बोलते हैं जैनिज्म सेज अपरिग्रह हैविंग लेस एंड लेस विल यू फाइंड बिगर ट्रेडर्स देन द जैनीज इन इंडिया क्या जैनी लोगों से भी बड़े ट्रेडर हैं इंडिया में पीस एंड ट्रेड they are invariably connected with each other. Without peace there is no trade. It's that simple thing. Peace, Dhamma would talk about peace that would bring good economy. Dhamma, don't you think that Dhamma starting from Gangetic culture, Magadha was the heart of Gangetic culture, no? And what was Gangetic culture? Use of iron, use of good agricultural practices. Don't you think that with Dhamma, all the areas, the elements of Gangetic culture, use of iron, agriculture would propagate? And don't you think that if this is so, agriculture would be better in every area? More resources would be there, more taxes would be there for the state. Will it not help in statehood? आपने बोला Dhamma. The Sri Lankan ruler accepted the importance of Dhamma. No, said that just like Ashoka, call me also as Devanampiya. So Ashoka would be called Devanampiya, beloved of gods. Sri Lankan ruler also said, call me also as Devanampriya. And I also accept the importance of Dhamma. Don't you think that Dhamma would help in bringing good foreign affairs, foreign relations? Dhamma. Will it not lead to consolidation? No? Will it not lead to consolidation? Think about it. From the time of Chandragupta Maurya, no? The Mauryas were constantly expanding. So class करते जा रहे थे रिवीजन की जरूरत थी कंसोलिडेशन की जरूरत थी it was just like that. Don't you think that when they were going for so much expansion eventually a consolidation phase would be needed? Now if you directly say that no war would be there, that would look negative, that would look cowardice. But Ashoka said that I'm so great that I will not go for war. It was glorious. No, he would go for consolidation without war any phase, and despite of that he would be considered great. If he was such a peaceful ruler, why he did not disband the Magadhan army? No, the Magadhan army was never disbanded by Ashoka. Don't you think that Dhamma was also a tool of consolidation? Don't you think that Dhamma was very practical? Now, the question is, can you answer that Dhamma was helping in state authority? Dhamma was helping in political expansion? Is it not very easy? That is what the question is. Going through the question and then through the syllabus, it becomes super easy to tackle the exam. एक बच्चे ने पूछा प्रीलिम्स से कनेक्ट करिए जीएस के एक सवाल देखिए प्रीलिम्स का I'll come to this, don't worry. See this question. See this question of UPSC prelims. UPSC prelims 2020 क्वेश्चन दिस इज 2020 का सवाल है ये नो क्या बोला Who among the following rulers advised his subjects through this inscription? Whosoever praises his religious sect or blames other sects out of excessive devotion to his own sect with the view of glorifying his own sect, he rather injures his own sect very severely. Who said this? It was Ashoka, said in his edict that one should be religiously tolerant. Dhamma propagated religious tolerance. In prelims, directly the questions are being asked throughout across the history, and those who are taking history as the optional is just like a cakewalk. ये तो मतलब बोनस है हिस्ट्री के सवाल कितने आते हैं दिस ईयर दे आस्क 34 मार्क्स क्वेश्चन इन प्रीलिम्स 34 प्री अगर हम प्री की बात करें 34 मार्क्स इन 2022 2021 40 मार्क्स 40 मार्क्स क्वेश्चन इन प्री मेंस मेंस कितने सवाल पूछे गए 2022 75 मार्क्स 2021 75 मार्क्स आपको पता है this marks basically would be a bonus for you without doing anything actually you are prepared for everything and some of the questions are very difficult certainly only history optional candidate they would be able to attempt that even in gs so this huge weightage you are getting there in gs as well that makes history syllabus देखिए होता क्या है कि जब आप सिलेबस पढ़ रहे होते हैं ना ऑप्शनल पढ़ रहे होते हैं ऑलवेज ए कंसर्न दैट कि आपका जीएस का टाइम भी जा रहा है तो जीएस भी तो प्रिपेयर करना है in history there is no such problem because when you're preparing for your optional you are preparing for a gs as well Achha, can you write your essay without historic perspective no can you write any subject without historic perspective अगर उन्हें पूछा पंचायती राज institution development of panchayati raj institution in india without talking about historic perspective how you would be able to deal with that is the question some of the things now one last thing I would like to discuss with you, but before that, one more question I would like to get from your side. किसी को कोई सवाल पूछना है? Offline candidate, एक बच्चे ने सवाल पूछा है YouTube. It is एक बच्चे ने पूछा है कि it is must to complete ancient history. It is boring and long. बहुत ही बढ़िया सवाल. देखिए होता क्या है मैं आपको एक बात बताता हूँ. One thing that you have to understand why some candidates would not like some part of syllabus or any particular subject. कारण क्या है कि first be very honest and accept what is most unnatural thing for us सबसे ज़्यादा unnatural चीज़ क्या है पढ़ाई studies when you watch a movie you don't have to work very hard for that but when you are reading Upinder Singh for ancient India you have to work very hard for that no आपकी हालत खराब हो जाएगी कि आप बहुत मेहनत लग रही है कारण है there is a reason for that first of all one thing that has been imposed on us जो हम पर चिपका दी गई है और वो चीज़ है पढ़ाई it is never very natural for us what is natural for us that we are very curious we always want to know how something is there why something is there what was the change what was the continuity if you just worry about change and continuity history is a play ancient India Ramila Thapar is a good book no R.S. Sharma super writer he is Upinder Singh brilliant writer she is no so R.S. Sharma he is very good Upinder Singh brilliant she is no and you talk about D.D. Kosami you talk about D.N. Jha so many books are there in class what we will do anything that is important in any book we will discuss that in class and then you will get a very simple notes for that it's that simple logic किसी भी बुक में जो भी काम की बात है, हम उसे पढ़ेंगे क्लास में और उसका सिंपल सा नोट्स बनाएँगे। बस यही करेंगे। इट वुड बी सुपर ईज़ी, यू डोंट हैव टू वरी। एंशिएंट इंडिया इज़ as interesting as any other part of history. It's not lengthy, it's not boring at all. It is the founding stone. It is the founding stone. Correct? Any other question that you want to ask? Then I'll go for one last thing, then I'll end the session. But before that, a very interesting thing that I want to discuss. One thing is there, history like a teacher, like lecture, no new thing added to. So किसी को लगता है कि history में no new thing is there. Shruti, I'll invite a query from you. Now, if you talk about one student is saying that nothing new is added in history, it's absolutely wrong. So much research is going on. So much research is going on. Think about IVC sites. Almost everything is getting excavated. No data is there. And so many sites. Recently there was a news about Keladi. No, Keladi. It is talking about a new civilization, Vaigai Valley civilization, no, in South India. There is evidence emerging out of a big civilization that is called Keladi. No, the place is Keladi. Keladi. And in South, it is talking about Vaigai Valley civilization. A new research is there. Don't you think that it's super important? Because look, there is a historical evolutionary phase that we figure out in ancient times. First metal that was used was copper, then was used bronze. Like after, if you talk about IBC, Bronze Age civilization it was, and then general common use, if you talk about, iron would be used, correct? So copper, bronze, and iron. That is how the common uses would evolve. So in North, you talk about the use of copper, then you talk about Bronze Age civilization like IBC, then you talk about good use of iron in later Vedic time, and Vedic times you talk about. In South India, you talk about the megalithic cultures, we have found the iron implement and other tools from megalithic sites. So directly we jump to the Iron Age. Where is the Copper Age? And where is the Bronze Age? No, it has not been so far been discovered. If the findings of Killadi are correct, it can fill that gap in South India. That would talk about Copper Age layer and the Bronze Age layer. That is what is the significance of Killadi. Anything that is new, certainly that would be added in the class itself. वो class में discuss हो जाएगा. But yes, history is evolving. It's a living subject. It's not static. There's no doubt about this. Any other doubt? Then I'll go for one last thing. Yes, one chat question is there. So Fasiha says that history we have to retain so many years. बहुत सारे साल याद करने की कोशिश करनी पड़ेगी. फसिया, बहुत ही अच्छा सवाल, पर मेरे पास एक जवाब भी है. जवाब ये है, सवाल का जवाब. ऑफन आई टॉक अबाउट इट विद स्टूडेंट. जस्ट थिंक अबाउट वन एग्जांपल. आपने बोला गांधी जी was born 1869, but I told you that Gandhi ji was born in 1869. 1869 was the same year in which Suez Canal was also opened. It was constructed 1869. 1969, 100 years later, ISRO was established. No, 1469. If you talk about 1469, Guru Nanak Dev was born. 1769, Napoleon was born. मुझे तो नहीं लगता years इतने मुश्किल होते हैं. Second thing, do not worry about the years. If I explain a concept, I'll have to prove that through fact. And that fact would come very naturally. You don't have to worry about the facts. The facts would be very selective and the facts would be very limited. कोई और क्वेश्चन जो आप पूछना चाहते हैं? Any other question that you have to ask? Malvika says that for studying for GS, history optional preparation would be more than sufficient to cover everything, Malvika. So, any other doubts, general doubts that you have? Those who are live there in YouTube, any questions you have? So, Chetan, you are asking about mapping. So, once the session is over, just go back to the recording part. The first part of the session was dedicated to the mapping. So that would be very helpful for you if you want to go. Then one question from Shruti, then one last thing I would discuss from my side. Yes, Shruti? First of all, when you talk about quoting the historians, correct? आपने बोला Gordon Child talked about Neolithic Revolution. It is so common that 20 times you will read about it. It would become very natural to you. No? Romila Thapar says something, no? Or Bipan Chandra says something that is all very natural. So naturally, if you can quote a historian, quote that. Otherwise, there is no need to go for mugging up the names. That is not needed at all. That is not needed at all. Correct? So, any important historian that is there in the subject discussion will integrate the name as well, and that would come so natural. No, that would come so natural that certainly you will find it very easy for you to retain. And candidates, any doubts you have? एक बच्चे ने पूछा है complete class of history. Certainly, the entire module would be there. This we are discussing with the entire module. You just have to be good regular in the classes, that you have to just stay very regular in the classes. So जब आप क्लास में रेगुलर होते हैं तो बहुत अच्छी बात होती है कि अगर आप अच्छा नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं तो टीचर्स आपको बहुत अलर्ट कर रहे होते हैं. यू आर गेटिंग अ वेरी गुड स्कोल्डिंग एज वेल. And of course, yes, when you're training for UPSC like exam, certainly we will find that a lot of a very rigorous training has to be there. एक बच्चे ने पूछा आंसर राइटिंग. सो आंसर राइटिंग क्या होती है, कैसे करेंगे हम? Suppose if I say that once you complete the first paper, then I'll give a paper to you to go for test paper. It is one way of going through that, but don't you think that will it not be a better idea that each time you finish one chapter, there should be a test? There should be a test. Like each time you finish a chapter, you go for revising it, consolidating it, and then appear for the test. Suppose if I give that test that you write this answer and come back to me, that would just develop your calligraphy. क्योंकि आप मेरा नोट्स लिखकर मुझे ही दे देंगे. एंड टू डिडक्ट मार्क्स इन माई नोट्स इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर मी. ये मेरे लिए बहुत मुश्किल काम होता है बच्चों के साथ ऐसा करना. सो आई आस्क यू टू कम हियर. नो, प्रॉपर प्रिपरेशन, वन चैप्टर प्रिपेयर, write the question in front of me, and then suppose a question is there and suppose I say that I'm giving you 5 out of 10. सवाल है क्यों? Why? Anyone can give 5 out of 10 and 6 out of 10. We will discuss the answer. What are the problems? Where you could have improved it. No? What is the introduction? What is the conclusion? Where you have failed to take care of the question tag. So one-on-one discussion should be there. No? One-on-one discussion should be there. So answer writing would be each time the chapter is over, you have to write. You have to come, you have to write. That would be more rigorous, but that is what a UPSC level exam. आप सीधा एग्जाम लेवल पे, क्योंकि अगर मैंने आपको घर पे जाकर लिख कर वापस लाने के लिए बोला तो आपकी सिर्फ हैंड राइटिंग इंप्रूव होगी, क्योंकि आप मेरा नोट्स ही वापस लिख रहे होंगे, उससे फ़ायदा नहीं होगा. यू हैव टू कम प्रिपेयर्ड, यू हैव टू राइट द आंसर. दैट वुड डेवलप अ लॉट ऑफ राइटिंग स्किल्स हियर. कोई और सवाल जो आप मुझसे पूछना चाहते हैं? कोई और सवाल? ऑनलाइन कैंडिडेट्स, एनी क्वेश्चंस यू हैव? ओके, देन वन लास्ट थिंग दैट आई वांट टू डिस्कस. देखिए, अभी तक हमने बहुत सारी बातें की दैट हाउ वी हैव टू गो फॉर, बट if you come to prepare for history optional, I would like you to be equally brilliant in your GS and equally brilliant in your current affairs. Because you are not going to be the topper of just history. You would be topper of UPSC. याद रखिएगा, we have to prepare the optional in such a way that at the same time we are equally good in every part. No, so you have to be equally good in every part of your preparation. Optional, GS, current affairs, and everything. Come prepared for Hindu newspaper as well. Come prepared for GS as well. Come prepared for optional as well. And it would all be very demanding. ये बहुत demanding होगा that you're preparing for everything. But don't you think that if you put water at 99 degrees centigrade for 4 years, it would evaporate. It would not boil. 1 more degree centigrade, 100 degrees centigrade, 100% of effort. rather than wasting the time for 5 years in preparing for UPSC, 1.5 साल उतनी तैयारी करेंगे कि बस कमर टूट जाए, एग्जाम क्लियर करेंगे और चले जाएंगे। याद रखिएगा, इफ यू कम टू मी, यू शुड नो द पर्पस। यू कम टू मी टू लीव। अगर आप मेरे पास आए तो आप सिर्फ इसलिए आएंगे क्योंकि आपको जाना है। अपना पर्पस याद रखिएगा। एंड आई वुड विश कि जितनी जल्दी चले जाएं, because we are not here to waste your time, years in just preparing for UPSC. If you clear the exam early, you get the promotions earlier. No, the promotions, hierarchy, everything is better. We are not here to prepare for exam. पता है यूपीएससी ना बड़ी कमाल की जगह है। यहाँ पे जो भी मांगेंगे ना मिल जाएगा। मोस्ट ऑफ द कैंडिडेट दे कम हियर एंड व्हाट दे आस्क दैट कि हमें यूपीएससी प्रिपेयर करना है। यूपीएससी कहती है तथास्तु, करो प्रिपेयर। प्रिपेयर करने आए थे ना तुम, करो। Years they keep on preparing. Few candidates, handful of the candidates, they come up with a purpose. They say that we are here to clear the exam, not just to prepare for exam. यूपीएससी कहती है तथास्तु, you will clear the exam. जो मांगेंगे वही मिलेगा। याद रखिएगा कि मांगना क्या है। Every day remind yourself, you are here not to stay, you are here to leave, to clear the exam with excellent rank, to get the cadre of your choice, to get the state of your choice, and to leave as early as possible. एक छोटी सी बात दिखाता हूँ, ये बहुत those who are there, and thank you so much for those who are there, all of you. One last thing I would like to discuss, those who are there online, very interactive they are. Those who are there offline, certainly it's fabulous there. Those who are there live on YouTube, certainly excellent candidate, because all of them, they have put excellent queries, and I'm so thankful to all of you. अब एक लास्ट बात जाने से पहले, जाते-जाते मन की बात में एक और भी बात कह ही दूँ आपको कि इतनी मेहनत क्यों करेंगे हम? मतलब पढ़ना क्यों है यूपीएससी में इतना? बड़ी अजीब बात है ये, नहीं? So much to prepare for optional, so much to prepare for GS, so much to prepare for so many things. बहुत सारी चीज़ें, पर इतनी मेहनत क्यों करें? You will have to ask question to yourself, why you want to work so hard for UPSC? But I will not give you purpose because that would be artificial. But I would like to show you something, picture from a very known newspaper. Online candidates, I hope that just just a moment. Online candidates, I hope that the screen is clear. No, the screen is clear. All those who are there live on YouTube, just see this. One picture is there that would speak a lot. ये picture बहुत बातें करती है. And this is from a very general news, very important, famous newspaper. बट बहुत सारे बच्चे हैं जो रोड पे सामान बेच रहे होंगे, अभी भी बेच रहे होंगे। आप जाएँगे यहाँ से तो आपको रास्ते में दिख जाएँगे। सो इस बच्चे का चेहरा नहीं दिख रहा है, एंड बेसिकली सबके चेहरे, सारे ऐसे बच्चे एक ही जैसे दिखते हैं, नहीं? थक गया ये बच्चा तो थोड़ा आराम करो, उसे नींद आ गई है। नो? मिलियंस ऑफ सच, नो? मिलियंस, यू नो? डीपीएस इज़ गुड, डीपीएस इज़ वेरी गुड एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन। माय क्वेश्चन इज़, विल दिस किड गेट आल्सो एन एजुकेशन इन डीपीएस? मिलेगी एजुकेशन? That is the purpose of UPSC. When you're district magistrate and in a district, the schools are good. No? Many of them, they're just waiting for a good administrator. UPSC is not one exam. It's a purpose. It's a way to reach where you want to reach. पता करिए पहुंचना कहाँ है। मैंने आपको सिर्फ एक बात दिखाई है। और ये छोटा बच्चा है ना, ये छोटा बच्चा इवन कैनॉट फाइट फॉर हिज और हर राइट्स। नो, अपने लिए लड़ भी नहीं सकता है। और अगर आप इसके लिए लड़ सकते हैं तो यू आर द एवेंजर। आप हैं इसके एवेंजर, असली वाले, है ना? तो भई एवेंजर इतना डरता नहीं है भई। ये बात तो बड़ी मुश्किल है। तो तुम बोलता है कि लड़ाई बहुत मुश्किल है, मुझे दुनिया को नहीं बचाना है, तो यूपीएससी मुश्किल है, पर क्या मुश्किल होगी तो हम डर जाएँगे? क्वेश्चन तो ये है, सवाल तो यही है कि अगर यूपीएससी मुश्किल है तो क्या हम भाग जाएँगे? रिज़ल्ट सेकेंडरी है। अगर आप रिज़ल्ट के बारे में हर बार सोचेंगे तो ये बिज़नेस जैसी बात होगी। बिज़नेस इज़ ऑल्सो गुड, बट बिज़नेस हैज़ अ डिफरेंट पर्पस। यू आर लूकिंग फॉर प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस, यू आर गोइंग फॉर अ कैलकुलेशन। That's a different thing. You are here to prepare for UPSC. Business is good, but with a different purpose. UPSC is a different thing then. यहाँ पे प्रॉफिट लॉस मत देखिएगा। मतलब इस बच्चे को कोई चाहिए जो उसके लिए लड़े। इस बच्चे को बहुत सारी चीज़ें पढ़ाई चाहिए, नो गुड एजुकेशन, एवरीथिंग दिस किड डिजर्व्स। सो व्हेन यू आर गुड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, द स्कूल्स आर वर्किंग वेल, द हॉस्पिटल्स आर गुड, कमाल की बात होगी बहुत। एक और भी बात दिखाई देता हूँ, दिस इज अनदर थिंग दैट इज़ वेरी कॉमन दैट यूल सी इन इंडिया, है ना, द मैनुअल क्लीनिंग ऑफ द सीवेज हॉल। और मैंने आपको बताया कि एक बार ध्यान से जस्ट सी दिस वाटर, एक बार से ध्यान से देख लीजिए। मैंने आपको बोला दैट इफ यू जस्ट टच दिस वाटर वंस 20 टाइम्स यू विल सैनिटाइज योर हैंड। 20 बार अपना हाथ सैनिटाइज करेंगे आप। दिस पर्सन इज जस्ट वेटिंग फॉर अ चांस। अच्छा, इस बंदे को फोर्टिस में मैक्स हॉस्पिटल में क्या फैसिलिटी मिलेगी, और इसकी गलती क्या है? सवाल बहुत है। नो, इफ यू आर फाइटिंग फॉर सो मेनी पीपल and if you're not fighting for your own selfish motives, you will never be afraid of UPSC because UPSC is a purpose. देखिए, लड़ाई का आउटकम क्या होता है दैट इज वेरी सेकेंडरी, बट द फाइट मस्ट बी ग्लोरियस। मतलब लड़ाई बड़ी कमाल की होनी चाहिए, बिकॉज फाइटिंग इज ऑनर एंड प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर यूपीएससी इज ऑनर। इट्स fabulous to be there with you in this session. It's fabulous, there's no doubt about this. Those who still want to interact with me, बहुत सारे सवाल होंगे जो शायद मैं इस सेशन में आपके कुछ सवाल नहीं आंसर कर पाया होऊंगा। Go on Rao's website, you will find my mail ID there. You can access the faculties list there. You will find the faculty list there, the mail IDs there. You can always mail me. Then one more session of such orientation would be there. You can join that as well because there we will be discussing some other questions, some other map works and other things like that. But that would be there very soon. They would let you know when that is there. But let me tell you one thing, that I'm very happy to have you here in the class, offline, online, and those who are there live on YouTube. So फौज बड़ी और छोटी हो इससे फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता है, फौज बहुत अच्छी होनी चाहिए। एंड सर्टेनली यू आर वेरी गुड सोल्जर्स, देयर इज़ नो डाउट अबाउट दिस। बहुत अच्छे से पढ़िए एंड आई जस्ट विश यू वन थिंग कि आप वैसे बन जाइए जैसे आप हैं, बहुत अच्छे। यू कुड परफॉर्म एज़ गुड एज़ यू आर। सो मेरी मम्मी एक बात अच्छी बात कहती हैं हमेशा। मेरी मम्मी कहती हैं दैट कि पेरेंट्स ज़िंदगी में सिर्फ़ एक ही बार जीतते हैं जब वो अपने बच्चों से हार जाते हैं। No, the parents, they would just win once in their life. When their own kids, they would defeat them by becoming better than them. कि जब उनका बच्चा अपने पेरेंट्स को हरा देते ना और उनसे अच्छा बन जाता है ना, जो हार होती है ना पेरेंट्स की, वही ज़िंदगी की सबसे बड़ी जीत होती है उनकी। और यही सबसे कमाल की बात है। तो मैं हमेशा चाहूँगा, आई विश यू कि आप उतने अच्छे बन जाइए जो मतलब आपके पेरेंट्स सोचते हैं, चाहते हैं कि वो आप उनसे भी आगे निकल जाइए। तो बन जाइए बहुत कमाल की और उनसे भी बहुत अच्छे बन जाइए। मेक देम प्राउड। यूपीएससी इज सच अ गुड एग्जाम, इट्स सच ए हम्बलिंग एक्सपीरियंस। इट विल मेक यू बेटर पर्सन। ये आपको बहुत बेहतर इंसान बना देगी। यूपीएससी इज अ बोनस, इंश्योरेंस। UPSC is the highest level of difficulty. So once you prepare for UPSC, basically you are eligible, you are capable of clearing any other competitive exam. सारे एग्जाम क्लियर कर सकते हैं आप। If you clear UPSC as well, that would be bonus. यूपीएससी प्रिपेयर करके कोई स्टूडेंट फेल नहीं करता है। एवरी ऑनेस्ट कैंडिडेट would always get a good government job. You just have to be very honest with your preparation. Some of you still have doubts, I know that, but just I'll put my mail ID, one more mail ID, those who are there. Look, DWIVEDI Dwivedi Gajanan GAJANN @gmail.com. So I'm Gajanan Dwivedi Gajanan @gmail. That is my mail ID. You can always mail me all your doubts, and certainly I would be replying to all of you. It was fabulous having you here in this orientation session. Wish you good luck. All of you, wish you good luck. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless you, all of you. Those who are there online in YouTube, God bless you, all of you. And any other doubts? No? One student says that manual scavenging is prohibited by law. It is there. Law is one thing, no? One last thing. One manual scavenging is prohibited by law. It's unlawful. But don't you think that there are so many things which are unlawful and quite visible is still there? Untouchability has been removed in Constitution, but don't you think that still practically we still have to fight against this problem of untouchability? Go to a rural area and ask any dry latrine cleaner whether there is any problem of untouchability is there or not. आपने बोला the right article 21 is the right to life, and right to life is to right to live with dignity, and that is the most fundamental right. But do you think that a poor rickshaw wala and a rag picker has got a very dignified life in India? Are you not violating then a very basic fundamental right? The rules are there, but as the administrator, you will have to be very clear about the ground realities, and that is what is the job of administrator, to execute the policy. You are the change. Because ये जितने लॉज हैं उसको लोगों तक पहुंचाने का ही काम आपका है। इसलिए बहुत ही कमाल का एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर बनना है और बहुत अच्छे से एग्ज़ाम क्लियर करना है। थैंक यू सो मच। गॉड ब्लेस यू। टेक केयर। थैंक यू।